all today. I've done it all. Good morning, and good morning. Welcome to another edition of the Brothers of Legacy. I am your host, AD Walker, the pusher, the grower, the motivator. Appreciate you guys for being here, rocking with us. Thank you guys for your patience because I had totally 100% forgot I had a doctor's appointment yesterday. And then I got a text late in the midnight hour. No, um, that I needed to be prepared and fast for 12 hours. I was like, wait a minute. Forgot. So thank you guys. All is well. Just getting my checkup. I do my checkups. I do my checkups. Everything is good. Everything is good. I promise. Everything's good. Uh, and all is well. So I am grateful. Thomas just came in the building. Let's get Thomas in the building. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good
How you
morning.
doing?
All is well. All is
All is
well.
well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You getting them checkups? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're making me think I need to go get my checkup.
Yes, sir. Got to get them checkups yearly. And the older you get, it matters more. you
Mm.
know, it seems
Now you're
like,
calling me old. Okay.
yeah, you're up there, brother. You're up there. you clean shaven, so we can't see any grays. We can't see the grays.
Right. Wow. I'll be 51 on Tuesday.
Okay. Look at that.
This is what 51 looks like these days.
Right. And maybe it's because of our perspective.
Mm.
50 used to look really old when we were younger.
Oh.
Right? It used to look old. I don't know. Maybe between technology, medicines, vitamin, upgrading
It's
of life, the struggle is not as real like it
yeah.
was back in the day.
I think that's the difference. We have a different struggle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We don't. Yeah, struggles are different. I think in time span, especially like driving and you know our levels of stress. We don't have we didn't have to deal with certain things. Yeah, so I think our lives is a tad bit more comfortable.
It's a little different. A little different.
Yeah,
But and I guess we do take care of ourselves a little bit more. We
yeah,
try to
more conscious of
be
it.
active and
Right,
we don't eat the same type of stuff,
right, right.
not the
Yeah.
same way. And I don't know, for me growing up, used to have the Crisco can right in the middle of the stove, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
And I mean, just think about the way we used to live and eat, right? That Crisco can had every part of the grease, whatever grease you used in
Boy,
that
that
can,
joke, yeah.
and you
Eat that.
reused it
Yes,
over and
over
over
and
again.
over.
And so I'm just saying, like,
In the metal can that
yeah,
there's a whole bunch of stuff going on that's just like, was that
I
good
mean,
for us?
that added 10 years to life right there.
But that was some bomb fried chicken though. That was some bomb
Man,
fried chicken.
wasn't it though? Now we all bougie. We go someplace like, oh, they ain't changed their grease.
Right? Yo, well, we could notice like, ooh, those fries look like, yeah, that grease is old.
That grease is old. They ain't changed their grease.
Yo, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. That's a whole show in itself. The things we notice now. Like, you get older, like, oh, wait a
Yeah.
minute.
Back in the days, we was good. We were talking about powdered milk the other day,
All right, right.
and
Right.
right now no way I would drink powdered milk.
Uh-uh. Nah,
But
not at all.
back in the days,
Oh yeah, that
you
was
do
what
what
you
you gotta
had.
do.
That's what you had. It's what you had. Oh, so welcome everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Brothers of Legacy. I appreciate you guys for being here. Make sure you share. Sharing is caring. I'm gonna go ahead and run this intro real quick. Give you an opportunity to share, tag, text. Let everybody know that the brothers are on. Again, thank you for being here. And if you haven't joined our text community, text LWN to 84576. Text LWN to 84576. And never miss a broadcast. All right, so we'll be right back right after this.
You're watching the Brothers of Legacy. We don't stand out. We stand up.
Crazy about Facebook. So normally when I go into Facebook to share like my timeline, I literally have to go find my show. And of course I'm subscribed. It should come right up on my timeline. It's part of my account as well. But because now that you have put it on your socials, it pops up on your social. So I was like, and then it came on my timeline. So I was like, well, you know what? I'm gonna just share from his social.
I just share from your socials. So
Right.
hey, we're going back and forth. Let's just share. Sharon's caring, right?
Sharing is caring. Sharing is caring.
We got it going both ways. So
Right.
we're good.
What's up, Richard? I'm gonna work on that, Richard. That was interesting how you put that. I might share it to my group. Kind of, we'll work on it. It's kind of open, but we'll get into that. And good morning, Mama McCory. Good morning, Lisa. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you guys for always being here. You guys always first in the building, standing, waiting for the opening of the show, and I appreciate that. So today we're talking about thinking independently. And before we get into that, I have two things I wanted to kind of bring up. The first is, and maybe this might be my thing, today's phrase is independent. Come on, there you go, work with me. Independent state legislature theory. Independent state legislature theory. So if you haven't seen the news, the Supreme Court just struck down. They had a case brought to them basically saying that states should regulate all of the elections without any oversight. Let that marinate. States should regulate their elections without any federal oversight. Yeah. So 6-3, I think it was. Of course, our favorite Clarence Thomas was part of the descendants. We all know. But I will say shout out to Kavanaugh. He voted against it. Yeah, basically, so it's and the way they mention it's called the theory. So they're saying it's in the Constitution that states should manage their own elections. Yeah. So shout out to the Supreme Court for doing the right thing. Thank you.
Is it the right thing though?
You said, is it the right thing?
It's a question, like leaving it up to the state.
Yeah,
imagine if you left a lot of things in history up to states, where we'd be at right now.
Right. Right. That's yeah. Fight for everything. Fight over everything. And today's number is 204 billion. And no, this is not the Powerball. So it's kind of going to go into our conversation, but I looked up the cost of SNAP. That's the food stamp program. And and forgive me if it's not the proper term, but like the Section 8 or housing program as well. How much is given in? 204 billion. Now, the perspective that is always given is, all these people taking all this money. Hold on. Let's take a pause for the callers. Get the man, the myth, the legend, Brian A. McCory, Sr. in the building. Good morning, sir.
Morning. How's everybody?
Good.
All is well.
But I have my background.
Let's see. Your background's good. Is your mic on? You sound in the hallway like, I don't know if maybe you're not close.
You can't hear me?
There
we can hear you.
That's better. So 204 billion is built basically spent on the social service program. And like I said, I begin to think about not just the recipients, but what that money does for the economy. Because, you know, the money that's given is spent in grocery stores. And I was thinking like, man, because the grocery stores alone, they get 113 billion. That's Walmart's, that's the Publix, that's the Amazon's, even Instacart, you can do it. $113 billion. That's a lot of money back into the economy. And granted, the argument, we could put that money somewhere else, but at the same time, taking away that money could cripple us. So I put that out there. I pose that, just, you know, just how we look at things in perspective, you know, and how we always, well, not always, that's a lie. How we, you know, how we look at things from a social standpoint or a capitalistic standpoint. Makes sense? And how companies, you know, they make good on these social programs because it's a guaranteed money. It's money coming into their pockets and coming back to them. But a lot of times we focus on the recipients, like the ones that get the money, but not the ones where the money's being spent. And I just was thinking about that today, and I brought up the topic about thinking independently, only because, you know, we are moving into, all right, no problem. We are moving into our, you know, election season, and, you know, the great divide, you know, like Republican, Democrat, and how how it aggravates me watching both sides, like the, you know, the Republican sides and the Democrat sides, like that have opinions about what their people are doing and how no matter what, their person can't do wrong, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
You know, like when someone says something, they don't like, why don't you bring that up? Like, how can you ride so hard for your side and never admit when something is wrong? You know, like that aggravates me. I'm like, but they're wrong. Like, just, it's wrong, you know. And I mean, I guess they're supposed to be riding. It's all a political thing. Like, I can't because I need such and such to win. You know, like, and it's so hard to find independent conversation. That's what I feel. And if you guys follow somebody that you feel like is independent, shout them out. I definitely check them out. But I don't know many people that are just really independent. You know, when they like, I'm speaking truth, but you only speak truth on one side. You know, like you're always just attacking one side, but you never speak on both sides. So I sat in that. So do you guys feel that, or do you see it? As far as thinking independently, do you find it difficult to be in a room, right, and say, yeah, I don't like them, but they were kind of right about that. You know, like, or do you kind of like, yeah, I don't want to get into it with these folks.
And I guess it depends on who you're talking to. I mean, that's the independent thinking that you're talking about. I don't know if there is true independent thinking.
Independent thinking, right? And
Right.
that's good. That's good. I was gonna go there too.
There's now, if you're taking a step back, there's a lot of people I know that say, I'm not for either side. I just want the best. And, you know, and then you start looking at what's the best option out there, and it's
Right.
like
Right.
neither one of these are really that good. But we got to pick the lesser of two evils, and then you'll hear people tell you, well, you can't just go lesser of two evils. You gotta, you know, you gotta stand for something. And there's just so many different things, and when you're starting to look at the different ways that political, especially in politics, different
Right.
ways that people look at it. But when we start talking about independent thought, I mean, you're literally opening up a can of worms or other things.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I'll give you an example of something else you're opening the door for: pronouns and making people use pronouns. You
Right,
know,
right.
and well, they're not making you, but it's kind of frowned upon if you're not using pronouns. Or let's go to being vaccinated for COVID. You know,
Oh gosh.
how much lack of independent thought is there? If a person is not vaccinated, there's something wrong with you, and
Right.
to the total flip side, if you are getting
Those that are
vaccinated,
you ain't. Have you did your
you're the
research?
establishment, you know.
Right.
There's like, can we just have people that have reasons for doing things, and then
Right. That too.
if let's jump back to the political. I'm not going to take it away, but I'm just using
Nah,
that as
you
an
good.
example.
You
If
good.
you go
You get
to
the echo. That's why I keep muting you, my brother, because you got an echo. So just let me know when you speak. Go ahead.
yeah, so when you start thinking about the politics and
Right.
and the things that go behind it,
Yes.
people will follow a party off a cliff. They will follow a party
Right.
into, you know, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter if you think this looks racist or not. This is my party and this is my person, you know, and I'll be associated with this person because I believe in what they say, but they don't look at the big picture of how it impacts our society and the nation. And even, you know, I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to say something right now that people won't agree with. Barack Obama didn't do everything right.
Right.
You know, Barack Obama had some issues, and I had some issues with him. And Donald Trump did a lot of terrible things, but he did a couple things right.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Bill Clinton, the president that everybody loved, was one of the worst in history for Black America. You know, Ronald Reagan, who's America's president, was terrible. You know, but you can't really say those things because you can't think outside the box for yourself. You can't say, okay, why are you thinking that, Thomas? Why do you believe these things? And let me show you. It's if you talk against this person, ooh, you're just the devil, you're the enemy, you're this, you're that, whatever it may be. And so before there's even a conversation that's to be had about this, about independent thinking, group speak kind of jumps in a lot of times.
Yeah, definitely. Let me get Larry back in. Good morning, Larry. How you doing, sir?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Got a great report from the doc.
Okay.
So that's always a good thing. Got a little Band-Aid here. Taking more blood as always.
Always.
But I'm trying to. But yeah. I'm feeling what Thomas is saying. Like, yeah, you know. Well, see, I'm gonna just take a step back to the current climate, you know, because the thinking or just going like Thomas said, follow someone off a cliff. That mindset or that lemming, I don't know if I know that the game Lemmings, but that lemming mindset is even harder now than it was in the past, and it's getting to a point where you start to question, you know, are people using common sense when it comes to their thought process? Like some things that's required is just to take a step back and actually, I hate to use the word think, but think on your own.
Right.
but like the people that you know, the MAGA people, right? And here you go. I like the term, I like the phrase, but they're not using it properly, right? But I want America to be great again. I want America to be what it should be, right? What you know, but the people that like
that's good, Brian.
That follow the Trumpers, they say, hey, I relate to him.
Right.
I'm like, I don't.
I don't see how.
Only way I relate with this guy is I'm a man. I don't know what it's like to have millions of dollars.
Right. And access to it. Yeah.
A bunch of pennies. I don't know what it's like to have construction workers do a project for me, and then when it's time to pay them for that work, file bankruptcy and don't pay them. You know, I can't relate.
Must be nice.
What he does, you know.
Right.
If I'm having a service done, I'm used to having to pay the service.
Right.
You know, when the plumber
Right.
when the plumber comes to my house,
Right.
if I need some work done, and he gives me a bill,
Right.
I don't be like, oh yeah, about that.
About that. I just
Right?
filed bankruptcy. Sorry.
I just filed bankruptcy, so
bankruptcy.
you know, let the doorknob hit you. You know, so
Talk to my
so when
lawyer.
it co-
Talk to my lawyer.
yeah. So when it comes to that, this right here is like it's a whole nother like I don't know what's going on. Like
Right.
was everybody like watching the same TV show and there was something in the background hypnotizing them or whatever? You know,
Right.
is he saying?
I mean, I think, you know, and when it comes to support, you've never supported somebody like so hardcore that you kind of like, that's not that big of a deal. You know, like, you know, you just you can kind of overlook you. And I know from our perspective, like you're overlooking a lot, but from theirs, it's like, people do what they do. Don't be don't hate the player, hate the game.
Only when it's beneficial for them, though.
Right.
And you know,
100%.
I do have to admit, you know, and that's how I made a reference to Obama. Like when Obama got elected president that night, I remember where I was. I was out at one of those election parties.
Okay.
And it wasn't my first election party. I was actually part of I actually went to a Republican one before a couple years prior. But
Nice.
so this is my second one. And once he was elected, I was talking about those lemons. I followed a crowd of people. We just walked around all night, going to different places. I didn't know where I was going. So maybe it's just natural. Maybe it's just natural. Like at a certain point, like because normally if something like that, a crowd was going one way, Larry Banks would go the other way. But that night, something was in.
I'm just with you. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
Something was in that water. Something was in that water I was having that night.
Some Kool-Aid. It's the Kool-Aid.
We did make it to the Liberty Bell. We walked to the Liberty Bell.
Wow.
And we stood there, and this guy was up there talking.
Okay.
To this day, I can't remember a word he said.
He gave a great speech. I just don't know what he said. I don't.
It was totally improv and everything.
Oh, Rod says independent thinking sometimes equals I did my research. He said I'm limited, and this is a good one. Rod says I'm limited in my independent thinking if I'm not an expert in a certain field. True indeed. Because
I don't know if I agree with that though.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I think
back on that.
I kind of think when you start looking at being an independent thinker, if I'm limited in a certain field, I want to learn. Therefore, I'm going to stay open to learning. I'm not going to be, I'll be open to other people. I won't just be so gung-ho about this group. So, for example, if I don't know anything about a political situation, I'm not going to choose Republican or Democrat off the top. I'm going to be independent in my thinking, and I'm going to learn.
Trying to learn.
And that's gonna influence the way I look at it. And then he may be saying something different, but the way I read that is if I didn't know something or not an expert in a field, that's when I'm most independent.
Right. I mean, it's.
I think when you know a little bit about something is when you're most dangerous.
Yeah.
And when you're most dangerous because you really don't know nothing about nothing. You just get that little bit of information and run with it.
I got this. Let me tell you how this economy breaks down. Go ahead.
So how about this? Can something sway you to think in a certain way? So
this question.
Yesterday I was on my way to pool and I took a Lyft ride there because the missus want to meet me there. Shout out to the missus.
All right.
And and the Lyft driver, she goes, she tells me that she's a middle school teacher. And she's trying to go. She wants to teach high school. She wants to get out of it. And I was like, but that middle school age is like, what's wrong with that middle school age? Like, if you got that, do it, right? And she was like, well, it's getting hard, and I'm in the a low income area, right? And it's like and it makes it hard to teach. I'm like, how so, right? So I'm asking her all these things, and she's like, well, from the parents not being engaged, and the parents not being engaged, the students aren't engaged. And I'm like, this is interesting. So are you saying now it's based off of the income of the parents? Or is there a report out? There's research out there that says, hey,
it says this. Right. I got you.
Low
Like, where you
income
get the
means the
information.
students aren't engaged. I'm like, because you know who if you don't know me, you pick me up over here in the townies, but I'm from the projects, and I came out pretty well. My parents were low of the low. So
Right.
what are you saying, right? But then she was like, yeah, because the schools don't invest into the students, they don't do this. So now she done excited me. I'm in the car ready to do a movement. I'm ready to start a movement. Like, hey,
what is going on? right.
Well, hey, start the movement. Get it going.
Let's go.
But you know, Larry, one thing you just said as far as are there things that influence us, right? So she's working in this field right now. You're thinking back to your own history in this same field, but it's different times. It's totally different times. Like back in the day when you were in middle school, low income, it was a different middle school low income because you knew if you got out of line, you go home, you get your block knocked off. Right. So, today kids don't fear nothing because they know you ain't putting your hands on me. You ain't doing this. You ain't gonna say. I'll say. Matter of fact, I'll put my hands on you. You do anything, you go to jail. And so there's a whole different lack of reverence for adults, and there's so many other things that. You know, we have to begin to look at it from a different perspective, and that's that independent thinking. Like this young lady has this middle school job. Man, middle school is hard.
Right. I was gonna say that. Listen, across the board.
Terrible. I don't know why she's like, I'm gonna go up to high school. Like,
listen, I've heard middle school is worse. Like I've had a high school teacher like, I'm high school now. I don't do middle school because she says it's hard because you know the kids are going through their puberty, you know, like they're trying to figure themselves out. They got the emotions as ups and downs, and then just being a kid. She said, you know, she was like, "Yo, it's a challenge. Middle school is a challenging space." Yeah. So in any income bracket, like she didn't even mention income bracket. She just like it's a challenging space, and she did mention like parents helping does make it better, but it's still. You got these middle schoolers that's just trying to figure themselves out. They in between that kid phase and the high school phase. You know, hormones going up and down. Like, I don't know why I'm so down today. I'm up today. I'm down today. You know, so I've heard it's a challenge. But go ahead, Thomas. I just wanted to reiterate that as well.
You're right.
So so Richard says,
you know, one of the thoughts that I had earlier was about this independent thinking and how we get to group thinking and independent thinking.
Yes, sir.
You know, even at churches, we start just think about church and how people will lift up the pastor as the man, the one, the only. This person can do no wrong, right?
Right.
And even when they do wrong, it's like, no, you're wrong. They ain't wrong. You're wrong. And we challenge them on theology. Oh no, they know what they're talking about. You know, theologically,
they are sound.
They've understood this.
What school have you been to, buddy?
Where you been? You know, and there's this kind of thinking where you cannot. If you don't go along with the flow, then you're ostracized. And so a lot of times people don't want to be on the outside looking in. They want to feel like they're with them. And so you will jump in and you will listen to all the rhetoric and you'll accept rhetoric as truth. And as you accept this rhetoric as truth, it becomes your truth, unchallenged though. I say this to people all the time. There's so much that we've learned in adolescent years that
wrong.
You know, it was totally wrong, but it never gets challenged into our adult years, and we bring it into our adult years as truth.
Right, it's a fact.
But we learned it we learned a lot of this stuff in our group way of thinking because we were learning from our peers who didn't know any better, right?
Nothing.
And so, and then we come into adulthood and we're still talking about, man, women ain't nothing. They ain't you stupid. You learned that as a kid, didn't know any better.
Yes.
Now you know, you're grown, you're lonely. You like, man, I wish I had somebody. But you ain't never challenged that. And you know, you never became an independent thinker about relationships or anything like that.
Right.
And it just gets it's so crazy how we follow information. We never challenge the information. We're not allowed to challenge the authorities in these spaces. And so we keep these same cycles going over and over and over again.
Right.
You know, when we talk about, you know, you brought up welfare and the programs, you know, social programs and safety net. And we think when people think about those, or if we go talk to people who are out there and ask them about who do you think benefits most from these? Oh, these are the black people, the blacks.
Right.
You know, but white overwhelmingly rule this space of social welfare services, you know, and it's like, but unless you do your research, unless you challenge the thought that's out there, you would never even see that. You would just go with whatever the rhetoric is and just keep pushing it out there.
Definitely. I think so. I'm gonna throw Jeff comment up there, and then I'm gonna throw Richard's question. He said, "I remember 7th and 8th grade was the worst time for me." Yeah, me, I struggled 5th to 7th was hard. Everything just I don't know. I struggled every class.
Do those things.
Every class.
More and more ignorant.
Richard said, he's and we kind of answered. He said, "But do we think independently in the purest form, or are we subliminally influenced or manipulated like parental conditioning?"
I would say we are subliminally influenced. There's something in the wording, and you see that with me, I'm ready to take up this whole. I was so hyped, so rah yesterday in that let's ride. I was like, I told her her name was Patricia. Shout out to Patricia. I was like, hey, I'm going in. This is the last time you've seen Larry Banks. It's going down. I'm challenging the system down here. It ain't right, you know. So we're influenced, and you know, it's.
I'm gonna give you an example of subliminal influence, right?
What's that?
I come on this show, Larry comes on this show. Next thing you know, Larry's wearing Laker colors. You see?
That was good.
Shout out to my brother-in-law. You know, this is his boy. This company, Broken Board, is actually based in It's based in LA.
Okay.
All right.
So I was wearing it.
It's influenced by the colors.
What is Broken Board? What is it? I'm gonna have to look it up.
That's me every day. I'm broke and bored.
That's you every day. It's okay. So Rod says, maybe it's not about thinking independently or groupthink. We're just critically thinking. We're just not critically thinking. True indeed. I think it is digging further into what's being said and conversations that are being had. I think a lot of times we are influenced by certain things we hear on social media. I will say there are when someone speaks about a certain thing that we followed, you know, and they throw a question out there. Have you ever had the moments you're just like, okay, that's interesting, you know, like, or they throw a theory out there. I'm going down rabbit holes like, let me look this up. That sounds like baloney, you know, like, you know, and you're just like, okay, there's some relevance to it, you know, like even like, well, I think everybody, even with the vax, because the first thing most people would think of like, that was kind of quick. How did you come up with that vaccine so quickly? You know, like, you know, and you sit and watch, you know, and then of course there's the YouTuber research, you know, there's the the actual seem like research labs. Then there's the government speak. Then there's the media speak, and you're just like, who's telling the full story or doing the full research? You know, because I'm admit for myself, it took me a while. It took me and my wife a while. We talked about it. You're like, okay, get it. Oh no, looks like another incident. I'm not getting that. Like, okay, which one should I get? You know, and it's like back and forth. Don't get it, don't get it, you know, and you trying to figure out which information is telling you the most truth. But to Rod's point when he was saying about not being an expert in the field, right? Thomas, it's like who when you're in a specific space, right? Like let's just say Christianity or religion, right? For us, if we had a question, you have a chain of people you can go to that know certain things or feel like, you know, they've studied, they really expound on the word. And I can call them like, hey, what you think it is? You know, if I call Brian, he's telling me one thing, I can call you, Thomas. You know, I got folks that, okay, that can kind of help expand on the word. But when it comes to the field of like medicine, like, you know, I got my local doctor. I got some folks that are in the field, you know, that who can you call and really get some serious clarity about it, or can give you at least an independent thought, like, well, this is kind of the way you should look at it, this way or that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think we do lose when we don't know enough, if that makes sense.
Well, like you said, you can call a bunch of people on certain topics. Right. When it comes to like healthcare, you just got to listen because there ain't too many people you can call, right? Right. So I use an example like the vaccine. When they were first pushing the vaccine, they were like, "Oh, it's going to prevent COVID. It's going to be this.
It's going to do all this stuff." Right?
And then the language turned to, "It's going to make it to where the symptoms aren't as bad," you know, and it's not going to prevent it, but your symptoms aren't going to be bad. You have less chance.
Didn't you just say it's going to prevent it?
You know? And so you know, when I hear the language, independent thinking will let you hear this and be like, man, you guys don't even know what you're talking about. So if I'm just, you know, going with whatever group I'm with, it doesn't matter what you say. I don't believe the vaccine is good, or it doesn't matter what you're saying right now. I'm taking the vaccine no matter what. You know, you're the expert, you're this, but even though your language is changing, it doesn't matter. And that's sometimes what we miss is that they'll put it right out. People will put it right out in front of you, the lie, okay, or the misinformation or whatever it is. And if you're listening, you'll catch it. You'll be like, oh, dang, you said this, but that ain't really what you were talking about. You know, politicians are able to hold down like Congress seats and Senate seats for years and years and years, supposed to be working for the constituents, right? But every time it comes around to election seasons, they're putting out new promises, right? Or they're putting out old promises in a new way, whatever it may be. And a lot of times people are like, yeah, I'm going to vote for you because you're still talking my language, but you ain't did nothing, right? And so,
or they trying to scare you.
Right. So
you don't want them. You like the way things are, right? Don't vote for them.
A lot of times it doesn't go by what we do. It goes by what we are able to listen to and hear and not watch the actions behind it. And so like independent thinking to me, well, you know, you got to show and prove. And so it's kind of like, though, that's what I think about it.
Gotcha. Welcome back, Brian.
Thank you. You know, listen, I think we all recognize that, and this is something you said earlier, Thomas, the system, the infrastructure wants you ignorant. The desire is that you remain ignorant to what's really going on. Why do you think there's such an increase in entertainment, right? All these opportunities to have fun and to be misguided, you know, social media and all this stuff. Nobody wants you to know the reality of what's going on, what's happening before you. I mean, case in point, you think about this recent episode where you've got these millionaires paying $250,000 to go down to look at the Titanic, right? It's like 1.2, I don't know, how many of them? 5 times 250 grand,
Right.
Yeah.
That's fine,
right? How much did it cost to go check after them?
Right. Right.
Right? They spent like 2 million to go down there. It took like 7 million to go investigate.
Right.
All the while, there's over 700 passengers dying out there on the water, in other waters, trying to escape one country to get to another country.
Right.
Right? It was happening at the same time, but the news was focused on the 5 millionaires.
Right.
Right?
Wow. What about that?
And nobody knows about the over 700 passengers floating around. It was like a Titanic size event
Yes. Yes.
in the water
100%.
during the
100%.
same time.
Same time.
And we were tracking these 5 people who paid to
Right.
go die.
Right. Right. Right.
So who got the
Yeah.
most attention?
Wow.
Listen,
I
yeah.
haven't heard anything about it. You're right.
Yeah, exactly. And,
Exactly.
and what cost the most money?
Right.
Right. And not only that, there's a message out there that the 700 refugees or whatever you want to call them that were trying to get out of, I forgot the country they were trying to get out of. I don't even have the details because there wasn't enough information out there. But they attempted to tow the boat, and towing the boat caused the boat to capsize. And that country's Coast Guard, their version of the Coast Guard, is denying that they're the reason the boat capsized.
Right.
That's information that regular folks don't know, but ask people about that little capsule.
Yeah. And honestly, can have a keep a real moment. I only learned about it because Obama talked about it.
I only know about it because Brian talked about it.
Right. Because he said something about it, and people were like,
I
what?
heard it here first.
When did this Google it? When did this happen? Yeah. And CNN's like, hey, we covered this. y'all missed it. You know.
Yeah. I mean, and the reality is we have all this information about the trial of Donald Trump and his indictment.
Right.
That and here we are in 2023. The 2024 campaign has already kicked off, and we don't know anybody's agenda.
Right. Zero.
All we know is the case against Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Yeah.
So interesting thing is the media influence is one thing we haven't brought up. And that's really what you're talking about. The censoring of media, the promoting of different agendas on the media, the idea of keeping everybody in a box, keeping them dumb, you know. And you know, what they push out empowers people, emboldens people to do certain things and say certain things and be a certain way. And they know what they're doing. You know, the conflicts and everything else. What was the media saying when Kaepernick was taking a knee? Right. And how much was being pushed and what people were believing about Kaepernick taking a knee. And then years later, we have, you know, the George Floyd situations, the Ahmaud Arbery, and all these other situations, and the media flipped because the climate was different.
Taylor.
Yeah. So now the climate's different. And now they're saying a whole other thing. And now if Cap were in this day of media, he would be embraced and probably saluted as a hero. But back then he was ostracized. And you know what? No matter what we say now, he's still the same person that was back in, you know, 2016, 2017. And no matter what the media says about how they're embracing Black Lives Matter or whatever it may be, you know, it doesn't change the history of stuff.
Right.
Well, you know, what's the difference between Kaepernick's kneeling and all the other folks who knelt?
He had pig socks on.
Thank you.
Right.
The only difference.
Right.
But I mean, he was already getting all the flack before the pig socks, though. So
because he was the first one.
Right. He's the first one, and you know, in the way, again, what he's standing for wasn't wrong.
Right.
You know,
he was kneeling for. Kneeling for.
Kneeling for, sir.
Yeah.
Kneeling for. Right.
Yeah, he was standing by kneeling.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was one of my, this has been one of the one of my biggest things, right? Is and why I stopped watching sports. And it started with I quit the NFL. It was the way he was treated. The media was shifting the focus purely in the media. Got the people, oh, he's taking a knee during American flag. He hates the troops, right? And it's like, that is not why this guy's taking a knee. Why you guys are treating him this way? He's taking a knee because he's tired, just like I am, of learning another person's name, who got murdered by the cops, right? And no, I didn't say black person. I said person, another person. I don't. He was taking a knee for a reason, and
Right.
you guys shifted the focus from his reasoning to the point you got him ostracized and no longer a quarterback. I thought he was still a worthwhile quarterback. The quarterback he took his spot for, Alex Smith, is still in the NFL. Like, hey, so that's it.
That people talked about how he didn't have skills, right? I don't care what you say about his skill. He went to a Super Bowl. There's not too many quarterbacks out there that can say, I have enough skill to get to a Super Bowl. He ran 181 yards in a game as a quarterback. And, it's just, he's a winner. You can't teach winning. And so you can't say it was a skill. You can talk about skill all day long. It wasn't a skill. It was clearly blackballing and so many other things. And so I just kind of think how the media spins something, it's going to change the way the narrative that people have, unless they're willing to go deeper and have that independent thinking.
Yeah, right. Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely what Lisa said about the media. Media definitely plays a big part in our conditioning because they control most of what we see in front of us. Social media has its space, but there's a lot of scrolling. it's personal stuff. It's comedy. It's personal stuff. It's comedy. Then it's news, and then it's opinionated news. So it's like you watch some. Because everybody's a commentator. There's a lot of podcasts out there. There's a lot of information out there. So it's so much of our attention is now spread out. Ephraim says Cat was decent for sure and certified starting quarterback, top 20 during his time. And I think our attention is so spread throughout so much, it's hard to focus on what will be deemed important, between life itself and then a few minutes of scrolling. Because, let's keep it 100. No one wants to really see news all day. You want to see something funny. You want to see something little entertaining. Got to break it up, the monotony of it, because it could be depressing. It's like, oh, something else wrong with the world. Like, oh, another shooting. Who did it? Oh, so our attention is really spread out, and where we give our attention, and unfortunately, things get slipped through the cracks. And we're like, oh my gosh, we look around the neighborhood like, when did this happen? When did this get approved? Who put the strip club on the corner? Who said this was okay? And you just, but there was and we talked about it before. There was a hearing. Like, wait a minute, how did I miss that? And we all missed it. And except for the parties it was in favor of. And it's just sometimes you got to take a moment and just find out what's happening around you. And it becomes challenging who to listen to, because I always use the term opinionated facts, because someone will look smart because they bust out some facts, and then they take that and they shift it, and you're like, wait a minute, how did we fall into what you think when you were spewing facts in 1947 and 1989? How did you tie that together? And we fall into that, and it's like, who do you follow? Who do you listen to? And we just have to be able to like you said, Thomas, you got to challenge, critical thinking. Like Rod said, it's about that critical thinking, not just accepting everything as fact, even if it comes from the pulpit, because we've all been there. They take the word and then they skew like, wait a minute. Those two don't go together. Those two don't, I'm not challenging the Bible. I'm challenging what you just said, because those two don't fit together. And it's being able to challenge it as well. you know, and it's rough when you're in a group. You know, this our pastor. I get it. But he was wrong. Like, you was
One of the
wrong.
One of the things that you're saying too right now is being able to allow people to make a mistake. But if this is
Right.
your character and this is
Right,
what you're
right.
doing,
True.
it's different. We can say things and be totally 100% wrong about it. Later on, we may realize I was wrong about it and make the change. But if that's your character, if every week you're getting up and you're, spinning, putting a spin on something, that's character. That's something that you have to really look at and say, why am I even listening to this mess?
Right.
And I mean, we can look at politics and we can see how people are spinning. And every week there's
Right.
something new, something
Yes.
different, something crazy. Even within, you got whatever the dude's name from Florida is, going against Trump and
Right.
saying,
The same.
and the stuff that he's saying is like, are you seriously saying this to the out in public?
Right. Right.
This was an approved message. And so, but I'm gonna tell you, like right now, I think there's a conditioning going on also when it comes to social media. So, YouTube's been out for about 20 years now, right?
Right.
So if you start thinking about YouTube and when it first started, what it was, I remember the first time I ever heard about YouTube, I was a youth pastor and the kids were sitting there watching this video. And I'm like, where are you watching these videos? The YouTube, and they're just popping them on. Now YouTube is like, right now we're on YouTube, right?
Right.
And it is the media and medias. But what I want to say is we're being conditioned within the media.
Right.
And the alternative media also. My son watches YouTube and he'll come and he'll be like, did you know that this was this way? It's like, and all I have to do is say, son, you need to check your facts. You need to, before you start believing certain things. The other day he was saying that if to get ink off of a paper, all you have to do is take a lighter and put it under it.
It's called being a pyromaniac.
And he said the ink will disappear.
Poor son. I know.
So I was like, son, I need you to step back and think about this for a second. If you put fire under a paper, ink is not going to disappear. The paper is going to catch on fire.
Right?
He's like, but no, I seen it on YouTube. They didn't know.
They did it on YouTube. Oh,
and that's the route we're gonna go, like less independent thinking and more just whatever we're intaking, and whatever we intake and we believe it to be true, it's just gonna be a whole other realm of stuff.
The ink and a lot of stuff too. So Ephraim said the focus should be on the media, how they influence the narrative. Can we have major change control without having ownership of the networks, though? I don't think ownership would I don't know if ownership would change. I mean, I guess if you got access to the millions or billions that some of these networks have, the level of deep investigative reporting you can do, I think it's just you gotta what's that term? You gotta take it with a grain of salt. It's the information, okay, oh wow, that happened. And you got to filter it like, oh, there you go with your opinion. There you go with your thought of it. Is that the whole story? It's kind of like the news gives you a space to research. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, that's interesting. Let me Google this for myself. Let me go down a rabbit hole of this information. That sounds, because I've watched stories and you see, I'm like, and you can sometimes see it like, y'all ain't giving the full perspective. I feel like I'm not getting the full story. You're giving like half of what happened, but we don't know the whole story. Yeah. And you kind of got it's unfortunate that you got to research yourself or just like, oh, that's interesting, Oh, and it's unfortunate, like with all of the news, like because I felt like, okay, it's just Fox, okay, it's just MSNBC. Oh,
you got to research it
CNN
all.
too. Oh. ABC too? CBS? What? You thought maybe somebody was just gonna really tell you the whole story and not, sway you a certain way.
Well, you think about the fact that ultimately it boils down to someone making a decision as to whether or not this is relevant.
yeah, is
It's
this
a person making the decision,
right?
or a couple of people making. There's a consensus, right? So you're depending on humans to tell you what's important,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And I tell people all the time, you can't just watch one news station,
no,
right? If you are a liberal, more than likely you watch CNN.
right,
If you're a conservative, more than likely you spend more time on Fox.
right,
Well, guess what? If you only watch CNN and
Right.
never hear what the opposing team has to say,
right,
you're going to get caught ignorant.
yeah,
Do you guys remember the comedy show In Living Color?
yes.
Nah. Go ahead.
What happens when you fall in love with the sound of your own voice? David Allen Greer and Damon Wayans made famous the creation of new vocabulary.
Oh,
The inconspicutory.
right. When they're in
Right.
jail, right?
They would just create
Yeah.
stuff because, one person thought they were so smart, and if you
Right.
say something and no one checks you,
Right. Oh, the words.
yeah. I mean, that's what happens. I remember, who was it that said that? Eddie Murphy, way back in the day in the 80s, he did stand up and he was teasing Jesse Jackson having a conversation with Martin Luther King.
Right.
And he's like, Jesse said to Martin, now you know that's not a word.
Right.
Right? How do you think politicians sound today?
Yeah.
They are living, they're in living color.
Right.
Donald Trump said years ago, I could go out and shoot somebody.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Downtown New York, what did he say?
It's still
And still, right? And here he is. His story has changed 1,000 times. And now there's a recording, and he's saying, "Yeah, I don't know what kind of papers are wearing my." But here's the thing. Now that's the talk track for Donald Trump supporters. They're all saying it. They're getting their story right. Everybody's saying, well, you can't really be sure what was in his hands when he was shuffling paper. One guy said, well, if it was intelligence, more than likely it was a briefing. It should have only been one sheet of paper. Really? National intelligence, global intelligence is on a single sheet of paper.
They know.
Okay. All right.
They know. It's a single sheet.
And so now you have people out there saying it wasn't really, he was just joshing. He was just trying to show off.
It's all the time. Yeah. It's an excuse.
But a lot of times too, we got to think about media. It's whatever's first to media.
Right.
Whoever can get first to media, it doesn't matter if it's redacted, retracted, whatever.
Right.
The first thing that's said is usually the one that's elevated the most. Someone can be wrong in an area, and the rhetoric is already out there, and then later on someone can say, well, we were wrong about it. There's a specific thing that I think about back in the days. I won't talk about that here because I want you to stay on the air, and
Okay. We'll talk offline because I'm curious.
Man, next thing I start talking about this, you have like those old lines that go through. We're experiencing station technical difficulties on the internet. But there's a lot of times where whatever's first to media is what is really talked about the most, and it won't be, they won't go on. And if someone says I'm sorry, it's at the end of the newscast,
right?
At the very last 2 or 3 seconds, saying, "Oh, we said this the other day, and we're sorry about that." Done.
Right.
You'll never see that part. So I think a lot of times when it comes down to independently thinking, you have to be able to allow other people to talk and listen. And a lot of times people don't think that's independent thinking. But I'll say this: back in the days when I was younger, I used to, every time someone would talk, I have an answer really quickly, right? And someone asked me one day, why do you feel like you got to answer so quick instead of just listening? Right. And I said, because I don't want to be thought of as a fool. I don't want to be them think that I'm a fool, like I don't know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And then over the years, as I matured, I keep looking back over that statement, and I was literally proving myself to be a fool because I would say the most ignorant, foolish things without thinking. Right.
Right.
And And there's this quote that I learned later on in life that said, it's better to be thought of as a fool than open your mouth and remove all doubt. So,
Right.
and so it's one of those things where a lot of times we will spew foolishness in the name of trying to just be the loudest,
Right.
argue the most, or whatever it may be, instead of really taking time to think. And that's the key part of what we're talking about right now is thinking.
Right.
We don't put thinking into stuff. We just go for it. And
Right.
we just, whatever we feel or whatever we're used to or accustomed to or whatever's in our space, we'll talk about that and we'll share it as if it's the 100% truth.
Right.
Like we cannot be wrong in this space, but the truth
Yeah.
is we got to leave room for being wrong. And
Right.
we got to leave room for making sure that we can talk about things with thinking and with clarity, and not just because this is the side I choose.
Right. That's true. Ephraim says it's a person making a decision about other people's lives based off their analysis from algorithm. Data drives the decision for most networks now. Lisa said, in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, a thing is established, biblically speaking. And he said, a fool uttereth all his mind, right? Biblically speaking. Yeah, definitely wading through and thinking critically and independently is key, guys. I mean, the main thing is, I hate saying it's like you can't just openly trust what you hear, but just be willing to listen. Be willing to listen from all sides. Just be open. Sometimes I think we are, because how we grow up, and like I think Ephraim said it, or Gerardo said, the way you grow up affects how you listen and what you hear. You hear a certain thing, a political party, your whole life, your family, you have a certain way of thinking, but you just sometimes got to take a step back and just kind of think critically. Today's phrase, think critically. So, because it's important, because like we mentioned before, what you grew up thinking, you realize that may not be right. It may not exactly be right, because you've been listening to folks that they didn't really know either, and you've heard it so much, it becomes your foundation, becomes your fact, and you need to kind of challenge it sometimes. And it's hard. It's hard. If you've
It's
been
like
hearing it your whole life.
Spare the rod, spoil the child. That's biblical.
Right. Beat the skin off them. Beat the skin off them.
But it's not biblical. It's not in the Bible. But you'll hear
Right.
people talk about that all the time.
All the
Spare the
time.
rod, spoil the child is in the
All the time.
Bible, right? And we got to learn to get that independent thinking and really begin to see the truth for what it is.
When praises go up, blessings come down.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Oh man, I remember when I looked that up, I was like, that ain't in the Bible. Everybody say it. It's not in the Bible. So critical thinking, guys. And if it's biblical, you can always challenge. That's easy to challenge. Show me that in the Bible. I've told my kids that. I'm like, someone says something, just ask them, where's that in the Bible? Just show me, and I'll learn.
Mhm.
Oh, it's not. Why am I listening to that? So we thank you guys for being here. Thank you for rocking with us. Another edition of the Brothers of Legacy. If you're on YouTube, make sure you thumbs up. May not look like this, a little lighter. If you're on Facebook, make sure you go to the Facebook page and like it and share it and all of that good stuff. And make sure you join our text community. It's been scrolling the whole broadcast. Text LWN to 84576. Text LWN to 84576. We look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow on Thursday. There you go, Reese. I was waiting for you. I don't think many people think independently. If they did, they would be willing to listen to alternative perspectives.
I love alternative.
Reed's mad because anybody listening to him.
Yeah, alternative perspectives are really great. This foolishness is
so-
not.
Right.
We love you, Reed. We hear you, man.
Well, it's there. He said it's there somewhere between Genesis and Revelation. Right. All right, guys. Be blessed. Keep pushing. Keep growing. 988. You or someone you love is having a mental health crisis. Make sure you dial 988. Be safe. Make good choices. Drive safe. And that's it. That's all. We'll see you in the AM. Peace out.